Hello. Hi. It's me. I'm late. Sorry. 10 minutes late, that's not bad. That's not bad for a weekend, right? I would have been ready in time, but there was a video I wanted to watch. And I didn't notice that it had been released until like right as I was like, okay, I should get up and get ready. And then I saw that and I'm like, oh, I gotta watch that though. It's it was the new tonal montage cross Logston Pokemon Battle Royale, in case anyone was curious. It was cool, right? It was worth it. Anyway, today we're going to be playing more Great Ace Attorney. Something I do want to say about, I guess, plans for the immediate future. I'm not going to stream tomorrow, probably. Reason being, we are currently 2 weeks away from my birthday, and I have not started on a song cover yet. So it's a mix of me like being on and off sick for so long, combined with my leave getting kind of messed up because I had to move some of it to last month in order to like make management happy, and then that leave getting messed up because I had to do a certification exam during it, and then that ended up taking longer than expected. It's been a thing, but as a result, I now have 2 weeks left. Only one of those weeks will I be on leave, and I haven't started, which is great. I do have ideas for what I'm going to do, and I do think it is doable within that amount of time. But the point is, I need to make a start. My plan is that tomorrow I'm not going to stream, and instead I'm just going to work on like getting everything recorded for the song, starting on the art for the music video, etc. So there will be no stream, unfortunately, but such sacrifices need to be made in order to actually get things done. I was originally going to be like, oh, I'll just stream something that's going to be like less strenuous on my voice, but like, no, that's just going to be more distractions and more time taken up. I need to actually get this done. So yeah, I will also have the week before my birthday off, but I won't be doing any like extra bonus streams like I did last week, until I have the cover done and ready, because like, you know, I don't want to go on one of my birthdays without having a song cover ready. I know that like last year's birthday cover came out a little late, but like it came out on the weekend after my birthday, when I did my birthday celebration streams. This year my birthday is on the Saturday, so like I can't afford to have it be late. Also, I mentioned this during one of the earlier Great Ace Attorney streams, but I wanted to do like some sort of like quiz stream where I try to get people who know nothing about Ace Attorney to guess the names of Ace Attorney characters. I am currently like actually planning stuff for that. I would like to make my quiz stream idea a thing. I have like 2 quizzes that I'm currently like coming up with things for, so maybe that'll happen at some point in the future. And then I actually have to try and arrange people for a collab to be contestants on the quiz show, which is going to be a big struggle for me, considering how much difficulty I have speaking to people. But, you know, we'll get there when we get there. Hopefully, I'll be able to manage it. I have things I want to do. It's just gonna get me out of my comfort zone, I guess, to actually do them. Anyway, we're gonna get into the game. If my voices for the characters seem a little off, just know that as per usual, because I'm streaming so early, my nose is kind of messed up. This is just a thing that happens in winter. Because it's winter over here in Australia. For those of you in the Northern Hemisphere who are very confused by me mentioning winter. Anyway, I need to turn the volume up in my headphones. Because, like, I'm listening to the Elgato through OBS. And in OBS, I have to have it lower so that it, like, you can hear me over the game. But then I have to turn my own volume up in my headphones so that I can hear the lowered volume back at the normal volume. Anyway. If we do continue... Okay, yeah, so if you click continue, it just goes to your latest save. Cool. For some reason, I thought if I click continue, does it go to the autosave? But no. It goes to our latest save, which was where we ended off last time. Also, my tea is way too hot to drink right now. Right, we were talking to Miss Toussaint's. Two spells, rather. Which means I gotta remember how to do a French accent. Oh boy. Stolen waxwork. Tell us more about the stolen waxwork, please. It was some days ago now. When I came in here one morning, I immediately noticed that the waxwork was missing from the special exhibit here. It is your most prominent display, so that's why the curtains were closed. And I found the ransom note in its place. The culprit must have broken in during the night and taken it then. Oh, there, that was supposed to be a question, but oh well. So this waxwork was stolen. It was a model of some horrible criminal, I suppose. Of a particularly horrible criminal, in fact. The killer who left a more profound scar on society than any other, I would say. The professor. What? I was gonna be like, oh, it's Jack the Ripper, right? No. Nope. The professor. Not a name I've heard of. So, Mr. Naruhodo, it seems the circle is complete. Sorry? The professor case happened around the time I was born, didn't it? Indeed it did, Iris. 10 years ago, a series of murders that rocked the capital. 10 years ago? Yes, the exact time that Baroque Van Zeeks graduated from university, in fact. What? Surely he's not saying. So the big event that changed Mr. Reaper's life. As you've surmised. It was the professor case. Who is this professor then? That is what I want to know. It was a series of gruesome murders that had all of London gripped in terror a decade ago. After 5 victims were killed, the man was arrested and put to death. I apologize to any French people watching. My accents are not great. And now he's immortalized here in wax for all Londoners to admire and enjoy. Though, of course, he happens to be absent at present on account of the abduction. But I don't understand. How is this all related to Lord Van Zeeks? You must first understand, my dear fellow, why it is that the professor earned such infamy. It was due to the victims he chose, some of Whitehall's finest. He was a professor killing students? What do you mean, Hurley? Those murdered by the professors were some of the highest members of the British aristocracy. members of the nobility, even royalty. It sends shockwaves through the country's administration. Okay, so Whitehall isn't a university then. I'm dumb. Members of the... Oh, wait, of course. What Professor Hairbrain said. Lord Van Zeek is from a family with noble blood. Oh gosh. It was the 5th victim that led to the professor's arrest. The last of the killer's prey was a young noble by the name of... Clint Van Zeeks. Oh no. No! I don't believe it! Van Zeeks? I'm sure you can piece together the rest for yourself. In the wake of his older brother's murder, the young Baroque pursued a career as a prosecutor, and eventually became the Reaper we know today. Damn. I had no idea Lord Van Zeeks had such a tragic past. Well, I'm afraid that's all I can say on the matter, for the time being at least. After all, I have work to do. As a waxwork exhibit. I am afraid I shall have to excuse myself as well. Oh, yes, of course. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Well then. Well, none of the predicted scenarios I've been analyzing involve you coming to visit me here. Whom? Whomst? Oh. It's these guys. It's been too long, really it has. Oh, how did Hairbrain's voice sound again? It's been too long, really it has. I'm delighted to see you, Baroque. It's been 10 years, and here we are, meeting in a prison of all places. I can't forgive myself for what happened to Mr. Asman. I just can't. I still can't believe it would happen. Tomorrow the court will decide. Yes. I have a young Eastern man acting as my defense. He seems reliable enough, though. It was an accident. A terrible accident. He assures me he can prove it. I must warn you. Oh, I know, I've heard already. You're going to be prosecuting, aren't you? Yes. Since I returned to England, I've heard lots of stories. Baroque, are you really... What? Never mind. I know that you have my best interests at heart. My friend is on trial. I wouldn't entrust it to anybody else. Of course. I fully understand. Conflict of interest. Thank you, Baroque. Until tomorrow, then. I'll see you in court. We ended like 2 conversations away from a to be continued screen. That's just how it goes with Ace Attorney. Oops. October, 8:52 a.m. The Old Bailey, Defendant's Antechamber. Can't believe it's been 6 months since I was last allowed to work in court. And now here I am, back at the Old Bailey. Ah, Mr. Naruhodo. Good morning, Professor Hairbrain. I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. The atmospheric pressure in here is off the charts. I've never felt anything like it. It's crushing me. I feel it every time I'm here. That gravity. Well,
This is Britain's highest court. But are you telling me it's fitted with some kind of device that can actually control air pressure?
I think it's probably all in the mind.
Ah, yes, well. You won't let me down, will you, Mr. Naruhodo? I'm counting on you in today's trial to save my life. To save the secret of my super high voltage instantaneous kinesis machine from being made public.
Yes, I understand. I know what I have to do. I have to establish that the explosion 2 days ago was nothing more than an unfortunate accident.
Well, I'm sure there's nothing to worry about, really. Justice will prevail.
I'm guessing... Is this Herlock?
My reservations, Mr. Naruhodo. You appear to have been lumbered with a most tiresome case here.
Yes, I was right.
Mr. Shams, I didn't expect to see you here. That was very mean, Runo, leaving me alone at home with Hurley. It took me at least an hour to wake him. Is it, are you? Herlock Sholmes! Indeed, sir, I am he. Herlock Sholmes! Oh, I've heard all about your exploits, even whilst living in Germany. Ah yes, Rand's magazine is sold in Germany too. This month's installment was sublime. Your deduction in The Adventure of Silver Blaze was wonderful. Ah yes, a memorable case indeed. It concerned a snake, I seem to recall. No, that was the Speckled Band.
Which one was the Silver Blaze? Was that one that we were involved in? I don't know if it was.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you for coming. I do appreciate your support. I think my tea might be cool enough to drink now.
Sorry to disappoint you, my dear fellow, but I'm afraid I can't stay.
Oh. I have urgent business at Madame Two Spells. You mean your waxwork job?
No, the waxwork abduction, of course. Madame has engaged my services.
Ah, so you're trying to get to the bottom of that ransom note, are you?
The week's wages depend on it, as does the safe return of the waxwork, naturally. As such, I intend to give it my undivided attention.
Oh, well, never mind then. I understand.
Of course, with my skills of observation and reasoning, resolving the matter will be as easy as proverbial pie. I shall return forthwith. For until I solve the case, I shall have no money to afford a pie of any description.
Oh no.
Ooh, then you must absolutely give it your full attention, Hurley.
Quite, Iris, quite. But life is riddled with irony, you know.
Whenever I give something my full attention, I have a quite insatiable desire for a pie. One of the universe's intractable mysteries, you might say. Oh yes, quite, definitely, absolutely. I totally understand.
Is someone a little starstruck?
I wish you the very best of luck, Professor Hairbrain. Why thank you.
Before I depart, Mr. Naruhodo, a word in your ear if you please. What's this about?
As you have remarkably little grounding in science, I feel I ought to inform you. As compelling as this super high voltage instantaneous kinesis hypothesis may be, a practical implementation, such as what was attempted by the professor at the Great Exhibition, is quite impossible. But the professor said the demonstration was a success. Yes, it would appear that he fervently believes it was. I've read Professor Bunnybrain's paper about it too, Runa, and I have to say, I'm sure it can't be done. It can barely be done theoretically, let alone practically. So he's completely barking up the wrong tree? But how could an experiment that had no possibility of succeeding, in fact, succeed? That's contradictory.
What if? What if this is where the waxwork has gone? The dude who stepped into the cage was actually, did we see him? We saw him step into the cage. It couldn't have been the waxwork. Somehow he switched places with the waxwork, and the waxwork melted. And that's what Professor Hairbrain saw, and that's why he thought his experiment had succeeded. Meanwhile, Mr. Asman melted. No, he was killed and just put in the tower. Potentially. Question mark. That's my running theory right now. I don't know how he switched places when we saw him, step into the tower. So I know, does this fucking thing... Why is the counter still off? I know a bunch of fake followers unfollowed. Why does it still say 72? Bruh. And it's that contradiction that will be at the heart of the trial, I've no doubt. What's that supposed to mean? Now, I must hurry along. I wish you the best of luck, dear fellow, my dear fellow. See you later, Hurley. Well, it looks like you're on your own today, Runo, but chin up, you can do it. Oh, what about you, Iris? No, I'm afraid I can't help. I have something I need to do. I see. It's going to be a big surprise for you when you find out what it is. That sounds ominous. Counsel for the defense and the defendant. Court is about to be in session. Make your way to the courtroom at once. Run our way. So we don't get a judicial assistant this time. Huh. An experiment that the laws of science say can't possibly succeed. And a scientist who's convinced that it did. That's the riddle you have to unlock here, Ryunosuke. That's the key to this case. Okay. Well then. 23rd October, 9:10 AM. The Old Bailey courtroom. Do I recognize any of the people here? We'll see, I guess. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. We are sitting today for the public trial of Professor Albert Hairbrain. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is ready. The defense is ready, my lord. I'm 6 months out of practice, and what's more, I'm without Susato-san today. Is it just my imagination, or does the air in here feel even more oppressive than usual?
So, I must say I recollect the victim of this case all too well, Mr. Odie Asman. Mr. Asman was...
I forget what voice I gave the judge, because I feel like I'm giving him too similar of a voice to Van Zeek's.
Mr. Asman was well known as a financier, though that was merely a front for his diverse criminal activities. It was only a month ago that the man appeared in court, prosecuted by you, Lord Van Zeeks, but the jury unanimously found him not guilty.
Because every member of the jury had been bribed, by the sounds of it. These powerful London criminals are prepared to go to extreme lengths to keep their freedom.
But 2 days ago, on 21st October, Mr. Asman met his end. The work of the Reaper, was it? If that is how your lordship would describe divine retribution, but the fact remains that Mr. Asman's death was a direct result of the actions of the accused, Professor Hairbrain. Very well then. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have been selected at random to represent the will of the people. Are the 6 of you ready to fulfill your societal duty?
Okay, this guy's new to me.
I am most gratified to have been selected to carry out this important civic duty, my lord.
She's new to me.
To have a man's fate in the palm of one's hand. Oh gosh, oh golly, it sends shivers down my spine.
He's new.
Science experiments, magic, conjuring tricks, courtroom trials, all are nothing more than performances.
He's new.
Any spurious scholar that defiles the reputation of science deserves to hang.
She's new.
We have to listen to what's said on both sides. On both sides of the fence, and then settle on one. That's it, isn't it?
Oh, she's eating it like a fucking typewriter. It even makes a ding sound when she moves it to the other side. Oh, and there's the guy from the Waxwork Museum, so there is someone we recognize here. Put your gun away, my dude.
Wasn't like this in my day. Wasn't like this at all.
That's the police killer Otomo lookalike again. And he's as exhausted as ever, it seems.
Now, as I'm sure you're all aware, the incident we are here to judge today tragically took place at the Great Exhibition shortly after its opening. Though the death toll could have been far worse, with the exception of the victim, no one was killed. Nevertheless, the dream of the science being exhibited rapidly turned into a nightmare for the spectators. A tragic turn of events. As such, the eyes of all of London, no, of the whole world, will be on this trial. It is our duty to reach a swift and just conclusion, I feel. So, your opening statement, please, Lord Van Zeeks.
Sorry, I'm drinking my tea.
At the heart of this incident is technology never before demonstrated anywhere in the world. One of science's latest developments, I take it. The government is keen to capitalize on the Great Exhibition to improve Britain's technological advantage. The technology being demonstrated by the accused was described as super high voltage instantaneous kinesis. Good lord!
It's designed to disassemble human subjects using extremely high voltage electricity and beam them instantaneously to another location where they are subsequently reassembled.
Is such a thing even within the realms of possibility? Well, I don't believe it, that's for sure.
Disassembling people with electricity? My goodness, how shocking!
Ha! The whole idea is absurd. The hypothesis would never stand up to scrutiny. Sir, I believe you are a fellow in of the Royal Society, are you not? An expert in your field?
I am, and my word on this matter can be considered final. Instantaneous kinesis is poppycock.
So this expert and Mr. Sholmes are in agreement. It's impossible.
What is the prosecution's view on the matter? The prosecution would assert that the accused's instantaneous kinesis demonstration was a success.
What? What rot?
I have finished my tea.
Order! Order! The professor's hypothesis is currently under investigation by the British government. If it is deemed to have merit, a substantial research grant would be made available. The accused made use of the invention built on his new hypothesis to take Mr. Asman's life, in order to be the sole benefactor of the grant.
But...
This disastrous demonstration was no accident. It was carefully designed from the outset to end the life of the victim.
Oh, that's what he means when he says the demonstration was a success. Not that the science worked, but that it did what it was intended to do, namely, kill Mr. Asman.
Thank you, Lord Van Zeeks. The prosecution's stance is clear. But you will now bring forth witnesses to substantiate your claims. Gladly, my lord.
Off goes the cloak.
Bailiff, show the first witnesses to the stand.
Gregson and the defendant.
Witnesses, state your names and occupations for the court.
Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard's Homicide Division. I was on duty at the demonstration on the day in question and in charge of the following investigation.
I'm a hairbrain. Scientist.
You were born in England, but have been carrying out research in Germany in recent years, correct?
Yes, that's right. After graduating from university here in Britain, I went to work in Germany and made an amazing discovery, which is what brought me back. I had to demonstrate my incredible hypothesis at the Great Exhibition.
I know he was born in England, but I don't care. I'm giving him a German accent. I need some way to differentiate all the voices.
What you demonstrated was incredible, alright?
An incredible explosion.
But the science was a success. The instantaneous kinesis worked. Everyone saw it. They must have done. Yes, it was a terrible accident, but the demonstration of my hypothesis was a success.
Well, that much is undeniable.
As shown in this photograph taken by the forensic investigation team. This was taken inside the Crystal Tower.
Oh, this was taken inside the Crystal Tower, I take it. The centerpiece of the exhibition, no less.
That's right, my lord. Seems the victim rammed straight into it.
I see. Very well. Submit the photograph as evidence.
A photographic print of the victim, taken after he had been ostensibly been beamed to the Crystal Tower. It shows an apparent stab wound to the chest. Okay.
As the court heard, the victim of the incident was Mr. Odie Asman.
I still haven't figured out how to spell... I think I might have confused it with another word. But After this case is finished, I'll have to look up what his name means. There have been a number of allegations made against the man, but put them aside for the time being. He was the man who financed the research for the experiment and the demonstration itself.
I see. So to summarize the situation, the defendant is accused of taking the life of the man who funded his work. Would that be correct?
Exactly. But couldn't it be that the explosion was caused by some malfunction of the apparatus used for the demonstration?
That's right. That must be it. My splendid machine. My poor splendid machine.
You saw it yesterday, didn't you? We can't even examine the wreckage thanks to the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act.
What? The wreckage? The wreckage?
But that being the case, how can the facts be established? How can it possibly be determined whether this was an accident or a deliberate, malicious act? Extremely simply, my lord. I beg your pardon? Isn't that right, witness?
What? Sorry, me?
No, your neighbor. Yes, sir, it was murder, plain and simple. Anyone could state that with complete certainty.
What? How can he possibly think that? I mean, stab wound? Stab wounds generally aren't an accident. I mean, granted, the previous game had a stab wound that was an accident, but generally, stab wounds aren't an accident.
Thank you, Inspector. I think we had better proceed to formal testimony. You will explain to the court on what grounds you claim this experiment to have been a front for murder.
Witness testimony. We haven't had to do any, reacting to other witnesses in this game yet, I don't think. We didn't have any in the previous case. We did have reacting to the jurors. We did have the jurors reacting to each other, but we didn't have the... Maybe they just didn't want to introduce it too early, even though this is the second game in this sub-series, so people should be used to it by now. A front for murder.
The corpse that went crashing through the crystal tower had a broken neck.
I made a minor miscalculation in the angle of the beam projections, that's all. That was my mistake.
But the post-mortem examination revealed another injury, a fatal wound.
There was a lesion in his chest where he'd been clearly stabbed by something sharp right in the heart. So the victim was killed before he went anywhere. And this fella's the only one who could have done it. I see. Do we have a murder weapon, perhaps?
An extraordinary business. In addition to suffering a broken neck, the victim was stabbed in the heart?
Information I would really like to have heard from someone other than the judge.
The coroner says the death would have been all but instant from a wound like that. You could say, in fact, that the victim was killed twice by the accused.
No, and no. That could be further from the truth.
I have here the experiment plan document that was submitted to the security team.
Why are there so many spikes? It's not looking good for you, my dude.
The victim stood himself inside something called the bird cage, ready to be beamed instantaneously. Ready to be beamed instantly to the second level of the crystal tower, about 25 yards away. The experiment did not go according to plan, however. As the machine was put into operation, there was a large explosion. The blast caused the beam transmitter to point higher than intended. Accordingly, the kinesis resulted in the birdcage materializing in mid-air, from where it subsequently fell, crashing through the glass of the Crystal Tower's large round window. My word! One assumes the victim's neck was broken upon impact with the tower, then.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen. The machine was just too powerful. But honestly, really, I swear, it was just an accident. A terrible accident.
Unfortunately, that excuse can't save you. No, not considering the sharp murder weapon that pierced the victim's heart.
Murder weapon? What are you saying?
This is the autopsy report submitted by the coroner. The prosecution would like it entered into the court record. Your request is granted, counsel.
Autopsy report of the victim, Mr. Asman. His neck was broken from the impact of a violent fall, and he was stabbed in the chest with a sharp object. Are we sure that sharp object isn't just the inside of the birdcage?
I was there in person, you know. I saw the whole ludicrous performance.
47, time of death. Courtney Seethe. I wonder if that's a pun as well. Cause of death, hemorrhage wound on the chest that pierced the heart, inflicted by a sharp implement. Additional observations, a broken vertebra, most likely resulting from an impact after a sudden fall from a considerable height. So he did die before the fall then, presumably. At least I think that's what they're trying to say. Unless he survived the broken neck and then got stabbed by the birdcage, but I don't think that's the case.
And the only other person on the stage with Mr. Asman was that disgraceful excuse for a scientist.
Then really, by all accounts, it must have been him.
Humph. Hard to think otherwise, really. Very well, counsel for the defense. Proceed with the cross-examination, please.
Oh, yes, my lord. I need to focus here. It's been a while. Here we go. Affront for murder. Time to press. The corpse that went crashing through the Crystal Tower had a broken neck. Are you suggesting that's because he fell from a considerable height?
Exactly. Which highlights something else about this whole rum business.
What's that?
The fact that the instantaneous kinesis itself was a success. After the explosion, the cage with the fellow inside suddenly appeared out of nowhere in midair. Although the experiment ended in disaster, the so-called kinesis actually did occur.
Huh. Are we sure the explosion didn't just send the cage flying?
Remind us, Professor, what was the cause of the fatal disaster?
I made a minor miscalculation in the angle of the beam projections, that's all. It was my mistake.
So the angle of the projection is critical, is it? And you calculated it yourself, personally?
Absolutely. The calculation is far too complicated for anyone but me to carry out.
Only you got it wrong, didn't you?
Yes, that's right. That's the point. The calculation is so complicated, even I made a mistake.
Do people fall for that brazen confidence? I should try it.
I took into account the subject's height and weight, the wind direction, the ambient temperature. I considered every possible variable, so I just don't understand how this could have happened.
Obviously then you had to include the weight of the clothes Mr. Asman was wearing at the time, I suppose.
Crackling comets! The answer should have been 3!
So much for safety first. The 3 must be for safety third. Oh no. Fatal wound. Another fatal injury, you say?
That doesn't make any sense.
I didn't think I'd have to spell this out, but here we go. Just because there were 2 fatal wounds doesn't mean I'm saying the victim had 2 lives to lose, does it?
2, right?
Obviously, at first, we thought the bloke had died due to his spine snapping in half as well.
But you're saying that's not the case.
You'll get your answer once I've finished my fish and chips if you don't keep butting in every few seconds. But we all know that's a bottomless bag.
The victim plummeted 30 feet into a glass tower. It would be reasonable to assume that as the cause of death. Right, that's what we all thought. But it was a red herring, wasn't it? There was a lesion in his chest where he'd clearly been stabbed by something right in the heart.
The defense knew nothing of this crucial information.
The prosecution received this report from the forensic investigation team only this morning. That was the first we knew of it as well. I can only apologize for the impossibility of informing the defense.
Sarcastic and insincere. Thanks.
I didn't read that as... That's the problem with trying to interpret tone through text. He should have said /s. So, what was the nature of this sharp object?
Among the accused's tools that were in use in the demonstration, one is of particular interest.
Oh, the screwdriver.
This. Ah, yes, that would appear to be some kind of screwdriver, wouldn't it?
There he is. My trusty little companion, Andrew.
Andrew? Of course.
Do you know each other already? He's one of my dear friends, like all my tools. I've named them all, you know. We're one big happy family.
I see why he's called Hairbrain.
Andrew is my flathead screwdriver, of course. His brother Michael is a crosshead.
I wonder if those are references as well.
Well, it would appear that your beloved Andrew has a red stain on his shank.
That isn't...
It's blood, beyond all reasonable doubt.
Sorry, I'm just rearranging my desk so that I can get to my, my water. No! Gotta stretch as well. Everyone remember to stretch. Yeah.
That's not all. The long, sharp shape of this Andrew fellow is completely consistent with the victim's wound.
What? What?
Have we tested it for fingerprints? I know those aren't permissible in court yet, but... Or at least they weren't 6 months ago. But, Order!
The court will enter this friend of the defendant as evidence.
Screwdriver has been entered into the court record. Professor Hairbrain's trusty screwdriver that he's named Andrew. There are traces of blood at the tip, and it matches the shape of the victim's wound. Oh no. So one of Professor Hairbrain's tools is the murder weapon. Let's check to make sure there's nothing of import. I've seen this unusually shaped handle before. It's the same screwdriver that was lodged in the grill of the floor of the kinesis machine, which could be important information. I should definitely make a note of it. Metal screwdriver that was found poking through the grill of the base of what remains of the kinesis machine. It has a very distinctive handle. Well, there we go. This is blood. Mr. Asmund's, no doubt. This is the problem with looking at murder weapons. me just check if there's anything. It looks like layers of thick fake canvas with a thick rubber lining of sorts. I've never seen anything like it before. When applying Mr. Sholmes' methods, you might deduce it was part of a raincoat worn by someone who really, really didn't want to get wet. And the charring must have occurred when the person was struck by lightning. Or maybe not. And this contraption, which to me looks like a crossbow. Can we look at any of it? Oh. Ah, there's some sort of lever here. It is a crossbow! What is this? It looks like a cross between a bow and a gun. It's a crossbow! I think it's probably used for the same thing, too. Crossbow! A weapon hidden under the tree, hidden behind a tree under the experiment stage and the exhibition grounds. It turns out that it's a folding crossbow. Well, there we go. Looks like you wind this around in order to draw the bowstring back and create tension. You must be able to fire arrows with a huge amount of force using this device then. In fact, I would imagine it's far more accurate and powerful than a Japanese longbow. Ugh, I really had no idea what I was picking up when I spotted this at the exhibition grounds. Bro just carried a fucking weapon into the courtroom. Apologies. My nose is very much disbehaving this morning. Misbehaving, even. This groove here must be where the arrows are loaded, I suppose. So I was right. It's a sort of bow with an automatic firing mechanism. This would be perfect for someone like me who catches his ear with the bowstring 2 times out of 3. In fact, if I'd had one of these, maybe I could have been beaten Kazuma in Kyudo archery training. It looks like that's all we have to examine with this. No, I didn't mean it. Can't find anything out of place. Okay, bye. I think we're good now. Great. So the victim was killed before he went anywhere, and this fella's the only one who could have done it. Oh, did someone launch the screwdriver from the crossbow? Ooh. Huh, do you really need to ask? I didn't look at what Ryunosuke actually said. What grounds do you have for saying that? Yeah. Do you really need to ask? There were only 2 people on that public experimentation stage in front of the whole crowd. The victim, Mr. Odie Asman, and the accused, Professor Hairbrain. We know for certain that before the experiment, the victim was alive. That's right, I saw him with my own eyes. Furthermore, following the explosion and kinesis, nobody went anywhere near the body. In other words, only someone else on the stage with the victim could possibly have done it. Never mind, I guess we did already have this introduced to us and I just forgot about it.
Excuse me.
Professor Hairbrain, do you have some information that may be relevant here? Professor? Ah, sorry. I was just calculating the optimum coefficient of electrolysis to separate the molecules in the human body. And the witness stand is the best place for that. It seemed as though you might have something to say about Inspector Gregson's last remark.
Yes, that's right. Of course. He just said that nobody else could have done it, didn't he?
Yeah, that's right. Who else could have stabbed the victim, eh?
I don't know. But there's no way I could have possibly stabbed Mr. Aspen, as you say.
Eh?
Explain, please, Professor. Of course, this cold-hearted policeman may not be aware, I suppose. But humans are warm-blooded mammals, with blood running continuously through their veins.
I had heard.
Then surely you see. If I'd plunged something the size of Andrew into the man's chest, the whole stage would have been a bloodbath. No, a blood swimming pool.
Well, only if you remove the weapon from the wound. That's something I learned through Ace Attorney. If you keep the weapon in the wound, it actually plugs it up so you don't lose as much blood.
But thousands of Londoners were watching me at the time. And yet none of them claims to have seen a swimming pool of blood.
Well, no, I suppose not.
You see? Not one.
True. I didn't see anything like that.
Well done, Professor. That was a great counter-argument.
Order, order.
He's got to use his wine bottle as a metaphor, isn't he?
Pray forgive the discourtesy if I savour a drop from my hallowed chalice to accompany my old friend's adducing. Here's to you, Albert.
Oh, you're too kind, Baroque. But I'm really not a patch on you.
No, you're not.
No?
You've neglected to mention one crucial possibility.
I have?
A particular situation in which very little bleeding would result from a stab wound.
He's got to mention it.
Ah, of course. Inspector, enlighten the court, please.
Yes, sir. Where are they going with this?
Very well. You will amend your formal testimony now, Inspector Gregson.
The weapon the victim was stabbed with must have been left in his body whilst he was beamed through the air. No, it wasn't. It was still in the machine. It was in the machine. So it didn't go with him.
Objection.
You say that while the weapon remains in the body, there's very little bleeding. Is that unequivocal?
Look, there was no blood on the experimentation stage, even though that's where the fellow was stabbed. The only explanation for that is if the screwdriver was still in his body, stopping any heavy bleeding. It's common medical knowledge, my learned friend, even on your side of the world.
Yes, but about this screwdriver. The thing is, we actually saw it at the scene ourselves, on the experimentation stage.
What?
It was on the floor by the wreckage of the machine, poking through a metal grill. I went to pick it up, but the detective here stopped me. Naturally, because you shouldn't be messing with a crime scene, not a time scene. Isn't that right, Inspector Gregson?
Well, now you come to mention it, yes. Inspector, are we to understand that you permitted the defense counsel to investigate? That you contravened the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act?
No, not at all. I wouldn't do that. I just let him look, nothing more. It was very clear, I was very clear he wasn't to touch a thing. Yes, that's true. This screwdriver was in plain sight on the stage. But it shouldn't have been, should it? What are you getting at? If this tool had still been in the victim's body when the victim was beamed away by the machine, then it shouldn't have still been on the stage.
That's right, it should have been beamed across to the Crystal Tower along with Mr. Asman. And been found still lodged in the victim's chest.
Ah. Ah.
Order! Order!
How do you explain this, Inspector? I don't...
It looks as though everything the victim had on his person moved with him when he was beamed. If the screwdriver was still in his chest when the instantaneous kinesis occurred, obviously that should have been beamed to the destination as well.
You...
This is a strange situation. Even though people are saying that this instantaneous kinesis is a scientific impossibility, we're still basing arguments on the assumption that it did actually take place. Alright, time to tighten the screws here. My lord, if the prosecution is unable to explain this inconsistency in its argument, we can only conclude that the testimony given in support cannot be relied upon.
My man's mad.
Lord Van Zeeks is stumped.
Okay, I guess that's Hairbrain's voice, but oh well, I've already given him a voice, I'm not changing it now.
Do you have something to say, witness?
Yes, I knew it. It bears out. The equations hold. Mr. Naruhodo, don't worry.
About what?
Without delving into the details, there is no inconsistency.
You dumbass! The inconsistency was helping you.
What? Even if Andrew had been lodged in Mr. Asman's chest, my trusty tool wouldn't have moved. Andrew remaining on the stage is consistent with my calculations.
Are you fucking stupid? Just throw it into the crowd.
It would seem your illusions have been shattered. Clearly, we should hear the accused's explanation. Or should I say, this brilliant scientist's explanation?
Just when I'd found an inconsistency in the prosecution's argument.
Scientists.
Very well, defendant. The defendant will testify again. Provide us with the scientific explanation as to why the inconsistency asserted by the defense fails to hold.
In the name of Apollo, I will, my lord.
Okay. Sure. Oh, and Gregson's just gone now.
To be clear, I'm still at the stage of gathering data in my research. My hypothesis states that the kinesis cannot transport metal, though. Hence, the metal weapon would have stayed put. In other words, the point just raised by Mr. Naruhodo isn't an inconsistency at all.
Let me see this. Was there any metal here? There is metal here. His glasses wouldn't have gone with him. Nor would that button. Assuming that button looks to be metal.
The point just raised by Mr. Naruhodo isn't an inconsistency at all. Mr. Asman was the patron of my research. Without him, my work wouldn't have been possible. Now I have a duty to protect the incredible machines that we built together.
So, the thrust of your argument, Professor, is that based upon his hypothesis, metal objects cannot be moved by this method of instantaneous kinesis. In other words, since the screwdriver is made of metal, even if it remained lodged in the victim's chest, its subsequent discovery on the stage, despite the victim being found elsewhere, is not an inconsistency. And therefore, And therefore, Professor Albert Harebrain could still have been the killer.
My great hypothesis holds, you see. We had to make the cage used to contain the subject from wood for that very reason.
I was not addressing you, witness.
Professor Harebrain.
Yes? Whose side are you on here? I don't take sides, Mr. Naruhodo. No. My only interest lies in upholding my hypothesis. I am a scientist, after all. Is he working for us or against us? It's very hard to tell.
Let's see how you cross-examine this testimony, my Nipponese friend.
Yes, fire away, Mr. Naruhodo.
I think I already know what I'm presenting, so let's just go for it. Still at the stage of gathering data, hypothesis states that the kinesis cannot transport metal. Are you sure about that? Because my man was wearing glasses. Sorry.
Objection.
Glasses with a metal frame. Professor Harebrain, you say that according to your hypothesis, nothing made of metal can be beamed by the instantaneous kinesis Nothing made of metal can be beamed by instantaneous kinesis using the machine you made. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Spot on. Exactly correct.
In that case, I'd ask you to have a look at this photograph that was taken at the scene. In particular, I'd like you to pay attention to the victim's face. You can clearly see that Mr. Asmund is wearing a pair of spectacles with a metal rim.
What? Metal? No. Metal can't... That's not... Metal? No!
We've already established that the proposed murder weapon, the screwdriver, was found on the stage. However, if your hypothesis correctly predicted that outcome, it should also have predicted that the metal-rimmed spectacles would be found in the same place.
Ah, my hypothesis! My hypothesis!
Professor Harebrain, this isn't easy for me to say, but your hypothesis is clearly flawed.
Ah!
Order! Counsel, what's the implication of this?
If, on the day in question, the alleged instantaneous kinesis never actually took place, then it's entirely possible that the victim was killed somewhere other than the stage. And in that case, someone other than the defendant could have been the culprit.
But my hypothesis is sound. I proved it that day. The experiment was a success. The experiment was proof of all my work.
Objection.
If I could say something here in my capacity as a fellow of the Royal Society. Yes, juror number 4, go ahead. As a man of science, there's one thing I simply cannot abide. And that's a fraud who pretends to be a fellow man of science.
Great Scott!
What? Wait, Great Scott, what are you suggesting? Are you suggesting my science is suspect?
It's just been disproven, hasn't it? It's in front of all of us. In other words, the whole demonstration was a complete nonsense from start to finish. Believe me, my fellow jurors, when I tell you that this man is a heel, a bounder, and a fraud. A fraud. I say the records of that machine should be stripped down and thoroughly examined.
No, never. That machine is the essence of my entire hypothesis. It is protected by the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act.
What the devil is that blasted act all about, eh? Who made up such a daft rule?
Don't like the way this seems to be going. What's the best way for me to help the professor? I'm gonna raise an objection. I don't know. Professor Harebrain has yet to perfect his invention. That would seem to be the case, yes? But even so...
Even so, what?
Going to such trouble and expense to create a fake machine to display in public, he would have absolutely no reason to do such a thing. Actually, he would have to earn a research grant. Oops.
He had an obvious reason to do exactly that. For the research grant money.
That.
If the government was foolish enough to have deemed this man's ridiculous notion plausible rather, he and his conspirators would have received a handsome sum indeed.
Conspirators? What would be the value of such a grant? £10? Oh, so she's probably very rich, maybe? Thinking like, oh yeah, £10, that's all you need, right? Maybe she's just out of touch.
To an order of magnitude out, madame. £500 a year.
Oh, ooh-ha. You can live handsome on that much for years. She's still going away at it.
The Society's noticed an increase in bogus public demonstrations in the field of science recently. And plenty of scientists arguing with each other to get the largest slice of the funding cake. People's greed is plenty motive enough for murder, I assure you.
Oh no. No, I haven't deceived anyone, least of all the government. My hypothesis is sound. The science is sound. Please, you must believe me.
No matter how unbelievable this hypothesis may seem to you, ladies and gentlemen, the fact remains that the victim was transported instantaneously to the Crystal Tower. Which means that the experiment was a success.
Ah, Baroque!
And therefore, the only person who could have committed this murder is the accused.
Ah, Baroque. Where is this heading? I have no idea.
My lord, if I may. Yes, Lord Van Zieks. The prosecution would like to summon a new witness to the stand. New witnesses? What would be the nature of their involvement? There were spectators of the demonstration at the exhibition who were occupying special seats.
Eyewitnesses? Oh, were they in one of the balloons?
Very well. The court grants the prosecution's request. I should very much like to hear from eyewitnesses to the incident. The prosecution's stance is clear. This experiment was no pastiche. The accused killed the financier victim there on the public stage before the very eyes of the spectators. Now, my learned friend.
God, it's always on mornings when I have to record that my nose goes completely berserk. Oh, yes?
It's time for you to make your own stance clear.
There's clearly a flaw in the professor's hypothesis. I can definitely see that. But where does that leave me?
We shall take a short recess now, during which time the prosecution will prepare its new witnesses to take the stand. As you wish, my lord. Good. In that case, court is adjourned for 20 minutes.
To be continued. We will save over the same part. October, 10:44 a.m. I've noticed, and I think I realized why. In the chord segments, they actually give you a timestamp along with the date, but when you're out investigating, they don't tell you the time. And the reason for that is because you can visit places in any order. So giving you the time would kind of mess things up.
Mr. Naruhodo, what on earth were you playing at just now? Or rather, what on earth were you playing? Were you playing at all along? My hypothesis! My amazing hypothesis! You've been picking holes in it from the start.
Sorry about that.
But you promised me. You said you'd prove that tractor explosion was an accident, not murder. You said you'd keep my precious invention from falling into anyone else's hands. But all you've done so far is try to undermine me.
No, you've tried to undermine me. I'm trying to prove you innocent. Yes, I did make you a promise, you're right. I said that I'd believe in you and fight for your freedom to the very end. But I also told you I was no scientist. I don't understand your hypothesis. The fact is, there's an undeniable flaw in your logic, isn't there?
But if I just run through some equations, yes, you see, it's because my work is incomplete.
Perhaps it is. Nevertheless, a man died as a consequence, didn't he?
Oh no! You're right. You're so right. It's all my fault. And I have no right to blame you for my failures. I'm a disaster. Not just as a scientist, but as a human being.
Well, that might be a little over the top. I wonder if that signature on his chest is actually closer to his Japanese name. I'd have to go and check, but I can't do that until after I finish the case. And while we're on the subject...
what about Farouk? Barak, he's being awful.
Claiming his old university friend to be a murderer, you mean?
He's a disaster, not just as a prosecutor, but as a human being. Oh, but no, wait. He's the Reaper, isn't he? Perhaps he's not classified as Homo sapiens anymore.
Glad that's cleared up. Can I double check something with you?
Yes, what?
The machine and demonstration you prepared. They were based entirely on your hypothesis, I presume. There was no trickery involved?
I drew the plans for the machine with my very own hands. Every line was painstakingly drawn with the firm belief that science is the only future. So yes, it's true that my hypothesis hasn't reached maturity yet, but please, Mr. Naruhodo, you must believe in it.
Alright, Professor, I understand.
Counsel, defendant. The prosecution's witnesses are ready to take the stand. Court is about to be in session again. Make your way to the courtroom, please.
You know, I tied on the stream waxing Poetic, but we were done with the wax stuff real fucking quick. So now I feel like it's not a fitting title, but oh well, I'm going to leave it there. It all hinges in that demonstration. If the professor's hypothesis is as sound as he claims, it leaves him as the only person who could possibly have killed the victim. But on the other hand, Mr. Sholmes was adamant. A practical implementation, such as was
such as was attempted by the professor at the Great Exhibition, is quite impossible.
So really, what should I be trying to prove here? "23rd October, 11 a.m. The Old Bailey courtroom. Court is back in session.
In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby reconvene the proceedings of this court. Counsels for the defense and prosecution, are you ready for the new witnesses to testify?" "The prosecution is ready, my lord."
As is the defense, my lord.
"So, Lord Van Zeeks, I believe these next witnesses saw the demonstration on the day in question with their own eyes."
Indeed, they did.
As luck would have it, one of them is a police detective, so the testimony we are about to hear can be considered highly reliable.
Perfect. A detective of all people.
The prosecution's stance remains unchanged. Though it ended in tragedy, the demonstration on the day in question was scientifically sound. And consequently, the sole person with the opportunity to who have committed this act of murder is the only other individual to have been present on the stage at the time, the accused. Thank you, counsel. The prosecution's position is clear. So, bring forth your witnesses now. Bailiff, show the witnesses in. The witnesses whose proximity to the incident on the day in question will clarify the truth unequivocally. Unequivocally, rather.
Oh hey, it's Gina. I was thinking like, oh, are they talking about Gina when they're talking about the police? And like, yep.
Witnesses, state your occupations for the court to hear.
My name is Balthazar Loon. His name is a play on balloon. They gave him an extravagant ass name like Balthazar solely for that fucking pun. I am the impresario of all the hot air balloons in the vicinity of the experimental stage. Okay, so impresario is apparently an English word. What is experimento? Is this guy supposed to be like Spanish? He's Italian, okay. We first had a scientist from Germany, then we have an artist from France, and now we have a balloon man from Italy. My accents are being tested, but all my fucking European accents sound the same. I can't do good enough accents for this. Ah! I am the impresario of all the hot air balloons in the vicinity of the experimental stage. Okay, now this is definitely a German. My name is Wilhelm Gottsrich Sigismund Ormstein. I have come to see the great exhibition all the way from my home in Bohemia. I'm very rich. Inspector Gina Lestrade, Scotland Yard. I'm a great detective, even Sherlock Holmes agrees. I was on security duty at the exhibition, and I got to go up in one of them balloons. It was amazing. Gina, again. But she did mention that she'd seen the disaster from up in a balloon, actually, didn't she? And she clearly loved every minute of it.
There were 3 balloons flying near the public experimentation stage when the incident occurred. 2 of these witnesses were in one such balloon at the time and saw the events unfold from the skies above.
You make it sound like they were in the cloud. You make it sound like they were in the clouds. It was only an altitude of circa 60 feet. Very low. Well, you can't see nothing if you fly too high, can you?
60 feet. About 18 meters, then. I love that. I love that Ryunosuke, being from Japan, has to fucking figure out what this is in metric units. Very helpful for me too, because I also use metric units, but also I have no sense of scale, so I don't actually know how high 18 meters is.
Thank you for your introductions. Now you will give your formal testimony to the court. Kindly describe what you witnessed, especially those of you who had a vantage point above the stage.
Witness testimony. The view from 60 feet up.
It was an incident terrible.
I don't know how. I don't speak Italian. Here I was worrying about French. I don't speak Italian either. How am I supposed to pronounce all this shit?
It was an incident terrible. I am only grateful that my balloons were not damaged. It's a huge bang from the stage, and the next second, another bang from the sky beside us. And from amidst the smoke, a cage appeared out of nowhere. The cage, it fell from the sky like a stone. It crashed into the crystal tower.
I apologize to all Europeans. I apologize. Oh no.
I didn't get a good look inside the cage, but no one went near it after it crashed into the tower.
A most extraordinary collective account, I must say.
Can I just clarify something? There's a detail in the witness's testimony that I've not heard any mention of until now. Specifically, that there were 2 explosions.
More precisely, 2 explosions in 2 separate places, yes. When the demonstration began, the balloon carrying the 2 witnesses was around here. There were other balloons in the air nearby at the time, carrying other passengers as well, to be clear. Then, as power was supplied to the machine for the demonstration, the first explosion occurred. The so-called bird cage that contained the victim disappeared from the stage, and a moment later, the second explosion occurred, directly adjacent to the balloon carrying the witnesses. The bird cage appeared at the site of the explosion, subsequently to plummet down to the crystal tower.
I was very surprised. Suddenly, a cage appeared before my eyes with a person inside. The blast was so hot, but I didn't want to miss a thing, so I kept my eyes wide.
He lost his balloon. Oh, don't worry, he can pay for another one.
I still have lots of money.
Okay. I don't think that's relevant to the testimony, but...
Precisely who is this curious infant? I'm told he is a young noble of Bohemian royalty. Apparently, he disguised himself in order to steal unnoticed into the Great Exhibition.
I am here in London on a sightseeing trip with my elementary school.
We will have the benefit of a child's point of view in the testimony.
Do we really need that? When I remove my mask, this is what I look like.
Ah, yes, I see. A delightful face, I'm sure.
Yeah, everyone says so.
Great disguise, then. The point is, the testimony of these witnesses further substantiates the fact for the court. Namely, that despite ending in an explosion, instantaneous kinesis was successfully demonstrated. And furthermore, that until the arrival of the police, no one approached the crystal tower where the victim fell. Therefore, only the accused, who was with Mr. Asman on the stage, could possibly have committed the murder. Yes, thank you, counsel. The prosecution's views on the matter are quite clear. So, the defense's cross-examination now, please.
Yes, my lord.
Oh boy.
Oh, now his mask is just gone. Okay. Alright. Let's get pressing. There were 3 balloons flying above the experiment stage at the time, I understand. See. Is see how you say yes in Italian? Hold on. I'm verifying. Yes, okay. So yeah, this guy is definitely Italian. Oh boy. Hey, we got an Italian, a German, and a Brit on the stand. All we need is an American, and we'd have Holo Justice. Heckin'.
Si, all 3 of them, my bellissimi bambini. They are very popular, signor. Some people will pay £10 for one ride.
£10? That's more than my annual stipend. I don't know if it's pronounced. I'm pretty sure it's stipend, actually. £20 a month. That is my pocket money. Okay, no one fucking cares. Royals have all the luck. I got up there for free, I did. Told the... Played the old, I work for Her Majesty's police card, you know? Detectives have all the luck. If they're so popular, why would you only be operating such a small number of balloons, though? Because if I have too many in the skies, they could crash into each other.
The operator for the balloons were decided by lots, with each operator manning a particular area.
See, and the zone above the public experimentation stage is the most profitable. The other impresarios, they hate me.
Thank you, witness. I think the court has a clear picture of the arrangements for balloon rides at the exhibition. Perhaps we could be more clear about what you actually witnessed of the incident.
Right, I can fill you in there, my lord.
Huge bang from the stage.
Hold it!
So you actually saw the accident happen from up in the air?
Yep, isn't it amazing what a detective gets to do, eh? I'm telling you, Odo.
Odo, maybe.
Being a lawyer's a mug's game. You should join the force and we can go flying together.
You know me so well. Yes, well, anyway. Could you tell us exactly what you saw, do you think?
Everything. We saw everything, because we were up above it all. That dodgy cove climbing in the cage, and that dodgy professor pulling all them levers. And that's when it happened. That's when there was that massive bang and the cage disappeared, just like that.
You are describing the moment the subject's body was decomposed by the electricity, I believe.
I didn't know what to make of it. Then there was another bang right in my ear. I looked round and there was a huge great fireball right next to us in the sky. There was nothing there before.
Oh?
Excuse me.
Excuse me.
Master Gotts, does your memory of the day differ?
My teacher at elementary school said that when you meet someone for the first time, you should always use their full name.
Yes, what was it again?
Wilhelm Gottschalk Sigismund Ormstein.
I'm sure there's a pun here, but I don't know what it is. Just the 4 names then? The point is, do you have something to say? Something to add in response to Detective Gina Lestrand's last remark, perhaps?
Oh, get it right, Odo. It's Inspector Lestrand.
Why does everyone have a problem with how I address them at the moment?
That is not what I saw.
Oh?
Yeah, there was a second explosion, and it was right beside our balloon. That is true. But I'm sure, which is what I said in it, 1 minute there was nothing there, and the next a massive explosion. My teacher at elementary school said when someone else is speaking, if you are rude enough to interrupt, you will have the most awful life imaginable.
Are all Bohemians brought up to be so full of joy?
Just before the second explosion happened next to our balloon.
Oh, they used the same coin model for the kid and for Gina.
Just before the second explosion happened next to our balloon, I clearly witnessed a green balloon flying in the sky.
A green balloon? Much like our green scrap of fabric. Well then. A green balloon?
Hey, you what? I never saw nothing like that. Well, I did. I saw it. And you can't say I didn't. I will complain to the council. I will cry and scream. My testimony is the truth. I am a Bohemian prince. You cannot say it's a lie. That is not allowed.
Playing the royalty card, are you? Typical. Says the orphan who likes to remind people she works for Her Majesty's police.
In that case, young man, I must ask you amend your formal testimony. In the interest of cordial relations between Great Britain and Bohemia...
Oh, that was the end of the...
It was not the sky that exploded. It was that great green balloon that was next to ours at the time.
Now, I feel like we do have evidence related to this. It doesn't contradict this, so I don't know if we're supposed to present it yet. So, let's press it for now. A green balloon, you say? Are you sure about that?
Of course I am sure. I am a proud Bohemian prince. All these questions are making me boring.
I think you mean bored.
English is very annoying. The language of my countrymen is far superior.
I agree, English is very annoying. I say that as a native English speaker.
Ragazzo, it is very wrong to lie. Lie? Flying balloons never explode. For the same reason, the planets never explode. It is logical.
Please tell me that doesn't mean logical.
If you insult me, you insult all of Bohemia. But I will have the army come out and shoot all of your stupid balloons out of the sky. All of them.
And then pay him for it. Here you are, Your Highness. Okay, theory. There was another balloon there, and that balloon was what exploded. The crossbow was used to shoot the balloon out of the sky which caused what's-his-face to fall, which was what resulted in the broken spine. Then, how do we get it? See, in my mind, it's all making sense, but he was clearly alive on the stage and walked into the birdcage. So how does he then swap places with the wax model? It doesn't make sense. Also, do we have a court record entry for what? Oh yeah, there he is. Okay. I feel like I feel like I know where this is going, but I can't fill in the missing pieces just yet. If only all international incidents were so easily resolved.
Now that peaceful relations have been restored here in the courtroom, perhaps we could return to the testimony. Did you also see the moment that the cage materialized, Mr. Loon?
No, I did not see the explosion myself. However, the cage, it fell from the sky like a stone and crashed into the crystal tower. I'm gonna present here, because I know that, like, I get... We'll press on everything first. Just to see. And then if nothing else there, then I'll present the thing. Did you see that actually happen? No, in reality I did not. I saw it after it hit the tower. There was a grand confusion around the stage. I ran to see what had happened. I was terrorized by the idea that one of my balloons had crashed. I suppose they are his livelihood. But when I looked up to the sky, all my precious balloons were still there. Not there. I saw it though. I saw it slam into the tower. After all, I am a detective now.
Then tell us what you saw, Inspector Lestrade.
That's what I like to hear. I didn't get a good look inside the cage, but no one went near it after it crashed into the tower.
Was it you who gave the order to keep people away?
Eh? Use your head, Odo. How could it have been me? I was up in a balloon, weren't I?
Right.
So because I weren't available, it was the boss who had to leg it over there. He was getting shoved and kicked all over by panicking spectators as he tried to seal off the scene. It's a real sight to behold, I can tell you. Amazing!
Poor Inspector Gregson.
So anyway, I couldn't see the cage that well because of all the smoke. I didn't really want to see, to be honest. I was scared out of my wits.
Keep it together, Inspector. The prosecution really is asserting that the demonstration was genuine, but what if it was actually some kind of switch-around trick instead? That would mean that the victim was never actually on the stage in the first place. The two explosions would have thrown everyone watching into a panic for sure. I think I need to find out more about what exactly the people saw at the time. I'm gonna do one more press, and that's with Gina, but without going on the side route with Gots. So you actually saw the da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. I'm just skipping ahead to where we'll have new stuff.
Everything, we saw everything, because we were up above it all. That dodgy cove climbing into the cage, that dodgy professor pulling all them levers. That's when it happened. That's when there was that massive bang and the cage disappeared, just like that.
Yep.
Didn't know what to make of it. And then there was another bang right in my ear. I looked round and there was a huge great fireball right next to us in the sky. And there was nothing there before. And what appears out of the flames? The cage, that's what.
And that description sounds like the moment after the man was instantaneously beamed through space.
It's mind-blowing, isn't it? But that's the 20th century for you, I reckon.
So the people who actually saw the demonstration with their own eyes Really believe they saw something miraculous taking place. I swear my nose had better behave tomorrow. I've got a song to record. Really believe they saw something miraculous taking place. Okay, so then I'm guessing it's not the sky that was exploded, it was a great balloon. It was a green balloon, so we show the piece of green cloth, I assume. Even though it doesn't contradict, it more so proves that what he's saying is correct. Oh! Wait. So we get that bit of testimony to say, like, hey, it was actually this. And then we present this to Gina, probably. We present this to Gina to say, like, hey, no, it wasn't nothing. What this kid says is correct. It was actually a green balloon. Wait, no, because she doesn't say it was nothing. Green balloon. Okay, now I'm confused. Okay, let's go back through everything. I thought I was really onto it, and then it just nope. Terrible. I am only grateful. Oh, this is the one we presented on. I'm only grateful my balloons were not damaged. Actually, they were. Mr. Loon, in your testimony, you said that all 3 of the balloons you had operating at the time were undamaged. That is correct. If they had been caught in the explosions, it would have been terrible. I wonder if you might know what this is. I think it may be... See, part of a balloon. A burnt piece of the fabric of the envelope. Sorry? The envelope? Pardon. That is the large round part of the balloon which becomes filled with hot air. It is made from very thick fabric lined with rubber. You would not want it to rip when you are in the sky. Just as I thought. This piece of cloth was found near the experimental stage. In other words, as Master Gotts testified, a green balloon did explode that day. Did indeed explode that day. If all the balloons in the sky above the experimentation stage belong to you, Mr. Loon, then your statement that they were all undamaged clearly contradicts the evidence. No! The kid has a box. The balloon exploded that day, didn't the man say so? If everyone on board was killed, oh no, having just spent 10 whole pounds for the experience, how awful. Seems to me like those things crash 50% of the time anyway. The instantaneous kinesis did occur, but after the explosion on the stage, the point of materialization shifted to a location occupied by a balloon. Causing the balloon to explode? Yes, eminently plausible. An unfortunate traffic accident, as it were, but it changes nothing about the pertinent facts. Oh, this I cannot accept. Why not, Mr. Loon? You are suggesting I am a liar? That the person died in a balloon incident?
There's no need to get fired up, Mr. Loon. The victim was the sole fatality that day.
That's right, and I prove it. Balthazar Loon is not a liar. There was no balloon in the no such balloon in the sky. In the sky, that is not possible. Possible. I don't know. It's probably just possible. You're saying it's impossible? Why?
This court has more important matters to discuss than the number of balloons that were operating that day.
Aye! But we can't ignore the fact that nobody appears to have known anything about this other balloon until now. My lord. The defense calls for further testimony from Mr. Loon.
I concur. There is clearly more to the truth here than meets the eye. It is imperative that we clear up the issue of this phantom balloon, I feel. Witness, you will give supplementary testimony about the balloons you are operating at the exhibition.
Grazie, my lord. As I said, Balthazar Loon is no liar. Every balloon I had in the sky landed safely. All 3 of my balloons were carrying passengers. If they fell to the ground in an explosion, what a catastrophe. But you can't get away from the fact that a burnt-up bit of cloth was found at the scene, can ya? The coppers at the yard reckon it was probably some debris thrown from the explosion on stage. This stupid asshole is mistaken. My balloons have red and blue zigzag stripes anyway.
I see. So then it wouldn't have been his balloon. But whose balloon would it be? So your assertion that the balloon this child saw was not one belonging to you?
Si, exactamente. If he even saw a balloon in the first place. I do not like the sound of it. It is very bad for business. I have a good mind to sue the land of Bohemia. If you attack us, we will fight back. It will be war. All out war.
What happened to all-out war? The roof of the courtroom is going to be filled with balloons by the end of this trial.
Mr. Loon certainly doesn't appear to be lying. But that doesn't change the fact that the testimony and the evidence are contradictory here.
If the defense is unable to find fault with the witness's statements, the court must consider them the truth. Think long and hard on that, my learned friend.
The situation has clearly changed now. I have to get to the bottom of what happened here, no matter what it takes.
Counsel, you may now examine the witness.
Cross-examine the witness. Balthazar Loon is no liar.
You couldn't just have forgotten one, maybe?
Signor, I might not notice what if I was given 100 lentils and one was missing. But we are talking about 3 enormous balloons. Do you believe I could make a mistake about something so grand and expensive?
I took the liberty of having Inspector Gregson check this gentleman's warehouse. I have the report here. It clearly says a total of 3 balloons. It would appear no mistake has been made then.
Surely Miss Lestrade could have been sent for such a menial task. What, me? I tell you what I told the boss, East End kids like me can only count up to 2. Obviously that ain't true, but the boss bought and said he'd have to go himself in that case.
Jean is great. All my balloons were carrying passengers.
It would be quite a catastrophe if they fell to the ground for any reason, I think. On that note, Mr. Loon, tell me, what is it that keeps these balloons in the sky? Are you an idiota? Sorry? That is like asking, why does a candle burn so bright? It burns bright because it burns bright, and the balloon flies because it flies. What else?
That must be Italian for I don't know.
There are two types of flying balloons, hot air balloons and gas balloons. Hot air balloons work on the principle that hot air being less dense than cold air, whereas gas balloons derive their lift by using a gas that is lighter than air.
See, and my balloons are filled with the magic gas, I believe.
Hydrogen, lighter than air, but highly explosive. Good lord.
I do not permit smoking of the cigarettes in any of my balloons. The magic gas does not like fire.
Even a small spark of electricity could cause an entire balloon to explode.
What is the matter with you, senor? All that comes out of your mouth is explosion, explosion, explosion. I tell you, my balloons are perfectly safe. They have to be, or I cannot eat. None of my balloons exploded that day. I am completely sure. But if you still say that that is what happened, you must show me proof.
Alright, so Mr. Loon had 3 balloons in the air that day. If none of them were damaged, then what was the one that exploded?
But you can't get away from the fact that a burnt-up bit of cloth was found at the scene, can you?
I was surprised to find the piece of fabric still at the scene, actually. Didn't you search the area surrounding the stage for clues?
Nah, I'm not into picking up stuff off the ground, me. Always works out better diving into people's pockets instead.
So much for the new career path.
Mind you, the boss was on his hands and knees picking up all kinds of rubbish from the floor. Thing is though, the cage went crashing into the crystal tower, didn't it? So that's where most of the investigation was going on.
Even so, I would have thought someone from Scotland Yard would have gathered it up as evidence.
Cool, listen to you. You stumble across a bit of balloon and suddenly you're the best investigator in the world.
Pardon?
Oh, you ain't got a badge, have you? Like this one. I could arrest you with this if I wanted to.
I wouldn't put it past her.
Come to think of it, there was talk of some scorching on the ground at a meeting we had about the investigation.
Oh, my poor nose.
The coppers at the yard reckon it was probably some debris thrown from the explosion on stage.
Oh, I didn't mean to. There was considerable damage to the stage and surrounding area, wasn't there?
Yeah, some of the coves what were watching the experiment were caught in the blast and injured. Good job the old contraption didn't kill over, eh? I hadn't even considered that.
It seems there was great panic after the incident occurred. Nevertheless, the police shouldn't have missed a torn piece of envelope from a balloon. Inspector Gregson can expect repercussions.
Like me swiping all his fish and chips, eh?
The man's sole pleasure.
None of this matters. The scrap of balloon envelope means nothing. Niente.
Stupid ragazzo. You mean the color is wrong?
Si, senor. I do not have any green balloons in my warehouse.
And yet a piece of green cloth was found at the scene, and it's unmistakably from a balloon.
Well, I do not know how that can be.
For the sake of argument, let's say that a green balloon did explode above the stage. You couldn't therefore conclude that it happened on the day in question.
Why not?
There have been recreational balloons balloon flights over Hyde Park operating from before the Great Exhibition. One could have exploded on some earlier date. Unfortunate, as I'm sure you'd agree. You believe it may have been from some earlier balloon accident that predates the exhibition?
Si, exactamente. As the Signor says, it is not from one of my balloons. Certainly this little ragazzo from... Clearly, this little ragazzo from Bohemia is mistaken about what he saw.
Excuse me.
Is something wrong, Master Gotts? It's Master Wilhelm Gottsreich Sigismund Ormstein. It was on the tip of my tongue. Yeah, something is very wrong. I know what I saw. There was a green balloon there. I swear it. I swear over all Bohemia. You can speak as much bad language as you like, but it changes nothing. If you do not have evidence, ragazzo, then I must tell your parents to punish you, eh? Perhaps we'll let the judge decide when it comes to punishments. Evidence? What is this evidence?
To give a simple explanation, young man. A photograph, for instance. Some tangible proof of what you claim.
Well, why didn't you say so sooner? I have the photograph here.
Good gracious.
What? I had not been up in the balloon for a while, so I was very excited. I took lots and lots of photographs. Of the Crystal Tower, of the Bohemian exhibit, of the streets of London, of the hot eel cellar, the balloon,
And of the instantaneous kinesis experiment, did you take a picture of that?
Yeah, one picture. Really? You did take one? But all I wanted was a ride in a balloon. I was not interested in boring experiments. Never mind that. Can you show us that photograph?
Show us that photograph.
Of course, and then you will see. You will see it that I am not lying, that I really did see a green balloon.
Except it's... Well, it's not in color, so we don't know what color the balloon was, but it is very clear that a balloon was hit by the beam. Well, by something at least.
Well, I see you are all too shocked to speak.
Yes, I think shocked is indeed the word, young man.
Yeah, perhaps you cannot see that it was a green balloon from this photograph, but that is not my fault. That is the fault of the stupid person who made the camera. Wah!
Even his fucking wah has fucking umlauts over it. Or whatever the double dot is called. That is one very Bohemian sounding cry.
Wah, wah.
Very well, the court will accept this photograph as evidence.
The photograph of the balloon has entered the court record. It's not my fault. It's the fault of the person who made the camera.
Well, never mind. I'm sure you have plenty of wonderful sapient memories to take home with you. In any case, when exactly did you take that photograph?
Well, it was on the day of the big explosion.
You don't say.
When I pressed this shutter release, there was a very loud bang. And a hot wind rushed over my face.
That means... This photograph was taken a split second before the explosion occurred.
Well, if you ask me, this black and white photograph changes nothing. I could not give the flying fig.
Lovely language you've picked up. As I thought, Mr. Loon's testimony just doesn't quite add up.
The young Bohemian boy claims to have seen another fourth balloon, but Mr. Loon vehemently denies the possibility, and it's hard to imagine the man in charge could be mistaken about the number that were in the air. Still, this inconsistency must tell us something, I'm sure. Indeed it does. Every balloon I had in the sky landed safely. Let me check that photograph again. Yeah, something is very clearly flying towards that. So where do we present it though? All three were carrying passengers, even though this shows the basket was empty.
Objection.
There we go. Unfortunately, this photograph Master Gotts took can't tell us the color of the balloon. But it can tell us something else, something crucially important. What? It shows that the pictured balloon wasn't carrying any passengers.
Ah, my goodness, you're right. But surely all the balloons would have been carrying passengers. There would be no sense in it otherwise.
See, they are for pleasure, for seeing the view. My balloons only fly with passengers.
Which tells us that the pictured balloon isn't one of them. So when the incident occurred that day, there was a fourth balloon in the skies above the experimentation stage. The mysterious green balloon.
I know nothing. Niente. I can only tell you one thing. If this balloon was not carrying passengers, then it was not one of mine.
Objection.
There are illegal tradesmen everywhere you care to look. Clearly one such entrepreneur decided to capitalize on the opportunity presented by the Great Exhibition, and managed to operate balloon flights on Mr. Loon's patch without him realizing.
See! The competition, trying to steal my profits. I did not notice because of the experimento that went wrong on the stage.
This fourth balloon exploded at the very same moment Mr. Asman was beamed from the stage below.
Right. So them scraps that fell to the ground after and left them scorch marks, they didn't come from the stage at all. It was bits of the balloon raining down. Because no one was in it, it didn't get no attention.
A mysterious fourth balloon carrying no passengers silently floating above the experimentation stage.
Objection.
This photograph shows us nothing more. A stray balloon carrying no one and operated by some rogue trader. It clearly has nothing to do with the case. Its relevance does elude me, I must say. The court has seen sufficient evidence and heard ample testimony already. The prosecution calls for this trial to be concluded.
Really? Have we really got to the truth yet? No, I can't let this opportunity slip away. The jurors' minds are made up, and not in our favor. What else could this photograph tell us? Is there nothing more we can learn from it? There is more! Look at the thing! Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, wait. Please don't give your decisions yet. The photograph from Master Gotts may well be hiding one more vital clue.
What's that? A vital clue?
Objection!
We're well past the point of mere possibilities. It's time for definitives now, so tell the court. What exactly does this alleged clue in the photograph prove? The cause of the explosion. We can reasonably assume that the pitcher balloon was destroyed in the searing heat of the explosion.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It was not my fault.
Evidently. Because the balloon from the birdcage from the kinesis machine materialized in the sky where it had been flying, and the balloon being fitted with flammable hydrogen instantly and explosively ignited. No, that's not what happened. What? It would appear that this photograph requires closer examination. Counsel for the defense, will you highlight the location of this alleged clue in the photograph for the court?
Of course, my lord. If you look closely, it's plain enough to see. And what's shown is linked to another piece of evidence we have, in a way that leads to an unbelievable conclusion. The clue that heavily suggests the real reason the balloon exploded is... It's here.
Take that!
The timing of this photograph can only be described as miraculous. I apologize for all the muting and unmuting, but it's better than letting you hear what's going on the other side. If you look, you'll notice there's a bright white line that appears to point directly towards the balloon, or directly at the balloon.
Most likely a ray of light incidentally caught on the film. I'm afraid I can see nothing of the sort.
If you look with a magnifying glass, my lord, it becomes clear what the nature of this bright line really is.
Goodness, what is that? Undeniably some flash of light, yes.
Oh golly, do you think it might be lightning?
But it couldn't have been a finer day. I believe we may be looking at fire. A bolt of fire heading straight for the balloon, like an arrow. Indeed, even to my aging eyes, it would appear to be a flame of some sort. My word, are you suggesting this flame struck the hydrogen gas?
That's the wrong voice.
Are you suggesting that this flame struck the hydrogen gas that filled the balloon?
Objection!
That's absurd. The balloon would have been 60 feet above the ground at the time. No flame could possibly have reached such a height.
Actually, it's my opinion that a particular piece of evidence found at the scene reveals that is exactly what did happen.
What evidence?
If such
evidence exists, counsel, then for goodness sake present it, man. Which evidence explains this mysterious streak of flame that appears to be headed directly for the balloon?
Crossbow!
Take that!
This was found hidden at the foot of a small ornamental tree near the scene.
Good lord, is that a crossbow?
An arrow dipped in oil and set alight could have been shot from this weapon, sending a flaming arrow straight into the hydrogen-filled balloon.
Are you suggesting that crossbow was used deliberately?
Blimey, you're right! A streak of light in the photo looks just like an arrow, doesn't it? Then, the explosion of the balloon, it was very likely the result of a flaming arrow from this crossbow igniting the hydrogen gas inside it.
No!
Order!
Counsel, this is an extraordinary supposition.
If the aim was to cause the balloon to explode, the shooter could have used a gun, of course. However, there is an obvious reason why that would have been out of the question.
The noise of the discharge, of course.
That's right. By using a crossbow, the projectile could be fired at the balloons silently. Well, yeah, if someone had shot a gun in the exhibition grounds, it would have caused a real panic. But with the big explosion, there was a very big panic anyway, no? I don't like this. I should be pleased to have found a plausible new explanation for all this, but something feels wrong.
Objection!
Do you understand the implications of what you're saying, my Nipponese friend?
If a flaming arrow did indeed hit the balloon, then obviously it would have exploded. If the birdcage appeared from the smoke that ensued... Wait a minute, what are you really saying here? I don't get it. Was the birdcage beamed up in the sky after all, or what?
My goodness me!
The birdcage was inside the balloon. Ah, now I understand. That's what the sinking feeling is about. I think there's a good chance that the birdcage was actually concealed inside the balloon all along.
What? Did I just hear that correctly, Counsel?
There's no going back now. The horse is bolted. Crossbow bolted, in fact. Let's assume, as I said, that the birdcage was hidden inside the green balloon from the start. On stage, when the experiment was started, the birdcage in the instantaneous kinesis machine disappeared in a cloud of smoke. At that moment, the flaming arrow was fired from the ground, causing the green balloon to explode, drawing the attention of the spectators to the sky above their heads. And from amid the smoke, the hidden birdcage then appeared, to fall down and crash into the crystal tower. I think you'll all agree it's entirely plausible. Aside from the fact that the man on stage disappeared, we're just not going to address that. That what I've just described is the real truth behind the miraculous experiment carried out that day. It disappeared before I could read it. I was blowing my nose. Hold on. Not call record. History.
This is good grief! This is ludicrous. What you've described is no science experiment. It's child's play. An incontemptible display of stage magic.
Which is presumably why we've got a magician in the jury. Both Mr. Sholmes and Iris said that the experiment was a scientific impossibility. In which case, this is the only way to explain what happened that day.
In any case, the victim's body was found inside the birdcage in the crystal tower. If instantaneous kinesis didn't take place, how do you explain that? If I may put in a word as a man of magic myself, such apparent discrepancies can easily be explained by some simple deception.
Juror number 3.
All that would be needed is a doppelganger, someone who looked very similar to the victim, Mr. Asman.
And having this other man appear on stage in front of the show as a body double. Yes, of course. So in fact, Mr. Asman must have been inside the birdcage that was concealed in the balloon right from the start.
Objection!
That balloon would have been filled with hydrogen. If anything hidden inside it would have been scattered to the four wind when it exploded. No one would ever have embarked on such a risky venture.
Not necessarily. The explosive force of the balloon gas would very much depend on the mixture of the ratio.
Juror number 4.
Flying balloons are rarely filled with pure hydrogen, but a mixture of other gases such as helium as well. Helium on its own doesn't explode, but by controlling the gas mixture ratio, the explosive force can be altered.
Does it just go between... Oh no, he's got even more colors he can go to. It goes to blue as well. And then does it go back to pink? Oh, of course. CYM. Yeah, magenta.
The mixture ratio?
Obviously, the victim's body would have suffered some burns. That would be unavoidable. But not to such an extent as to render this whole obscene charade impossible.
So everything that happened can be explained, logically and scientifically. The explosion that engulfed the stage at the start of the experiment was no accident. It was all a part of an elaborate deception, to make it appear that instantaneous kinesis had occurred. Hairbrain's gonna show up and be very upset about this. Well, goodness me.
Well, goodness me.
And if we accept that this is what happened, it means that the victim, Mr. Asman, was never present on the public experimentation stage to begin with.
No.
In short, he couldn't have killed the defendant who was He couldn't have been killed by the defendant who was on stage in full view the entire time. Ah! I'm waiting for Hairbrain to show up. This will be very hard for the prosecution to counter. Lord Van Seeks can't credibly maintain that Professor Hairbrain is a suspect now. I mean, he's still a suspect, he's just not the only one who could have done it. Here he comes.
Mr. Naruhodo, I appreciate your efforts. Thank you.
Professor? I thought I was going to say his full name. But you can stop now. Just keep your mouth shut, please. Sorry?
What's all this about, Mr. Hairbrain?
I, Albert Hairbrain, hereby confess that it was me who stabbed Mr. Odie Asman. Yes, it was me, with my faithful friend and partner, Andrew the Screwdriver.
What? What are you doing? He's trying to avoid having his charade exposed. Either that, or he truly does believe that his experiment works, and he's just trying to stop Mr. Naruhodo from disproving it.
Defendant, explain the sudden confession.
Professor Hairbrain, what are you talking about?
It's what I've said all along. I must protect my hypothesis and my precious machine. You stand there and claim it was all a trick, all an elaborate prank, but where's your proof? No, you'd have to examine the machine if you wanted to prove it, but then it would all be over. My beautiful hypothesis would be laid bare. I mean, the indignity of it.
It's clear that you drew the plans for the experiment, but you didn't actually build it. It's quite conceivable that you were duped, Professor. If you just let me, I can prove... Barak!
Yes?
I'll cooperate. I'll do whatever you say. I swear it. So please, ensure the Special Dispensement for Scientific Equipment Act is adhered to and protect my creation.
But if it's being used as a murder weapon, then Scotland Yard can investigate it all they want. Wasn't that what we discussed in the last stream?
Pray, forgive the discourtesy for filling my hallowed chalice at this critical juncture. Here's to my learned Nipponese friend.
What? And his upcoming attempt to clarify the defense's position in the light of the accused's confession.
Do you intend to formally assert that the experiment was nothing more than a conjuring trick? Because the moment you do, the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act that protects the professor's invention will cease to apply. The prosecution will then demand rigorous examination of the machinery involved in order to establish the truth. However, if you acknowledge that the machine is genuine and instrumental in the victim's murder, Any chance of investigating will be crushed, and the confidentiality of the professor's hypothesis preserved. Well, Counsel, what is the defense's official position on this matter?
The defense's official position is that I would like to save, Your Honor. I would like to save my game. What Professor Hairbrain, my client, actually asked of me was to prove that the explosion on the stage was an accident and protect the secrecy of his hypothesis. But there's no way to do that without implying the professor's guilt. Do I protect my client's life by asserting his innocence, or do I uphold my client's request but see him condemned? Either way, I can't avoid betraying his trust.
You've been silent long enough. Isn't talking your trade, my learned friend? Or has all knowledge of English escaped your confused Nipponese mind?
Mr. Naruhodo, there's no escape here. I have to make a choice. But it's an impossible one. I have to give up on something, but what? The defense asserts that the defendant's instantaneous kinesis machine was in fact... Like, we know that it doesn't work, right? We know that it's impossible. Because look, here's my thought, right? The explosion hasn't occurred yet. So theoretically... I feel like it's gotta be that we... I'm gonna save again, just cause so that like the save file is right at the split. Or is it just the illusion of choice and actually something's gonna come in and interrupt or something? Ah! Okay, maybe it was just no, I can't say it. My client placed his faith in me. I can't just let him down. What must I give up on is not the question you have to ask yourself here. It's what can I protect? What? Hello again. What? Huh? Hello again, Mr. Naruhodo. It's been far too long. Susada-san! But what are you... Hey-ya! Turn your thinking on its head. Ah! My first Susato takedown in 6 months. There'll be time to talk later, Mr. Naruhodo. For now, we must concentrate on the task at hand. Which is working out not what I have to give up on, but what I can protect. Turn your thinking upside down like a Susato takedown. Professor Hairbrain. Yes? Yesterday you told me that science is the pursuit of truth. Well, my job is to pursue the truth too. Yes, of course. And personally, I believe that you didn't stab Mr. Asman. I think you've come to realize something yourself too, haven't you? That your experiment and the machine you built with the victim are questionable. The truth behind that is what we must both pursue now. Let's go! So in the end, I did make the right decision, even if it didn't matter. Ah!
So, you've finally opened your eyes.
What?
As for you, Albert, you can't ignore this any longer. Having heard my learned friend's assertion, Don't you have something to say?
Barok. Lord Van Zeeks. Gosh, I've never heard him speak that way before. In truth, there is one thing, something I've remembered that's... Something I've remembered that's of relevance. What? On the day it happened, just before I began the experiment, I saw a man near the stage. A man holding that crossbow.
I beg your pardon?
Oh no. Professor! Did the man have any distinguishing features? What did he look like? Taller than me, and thinner than me. With straight hair, straighter and whiter than mine. Let me see, one less lens than me too, a monocle, rather stylish, a black monocle. Does this match anyone we've seen before? I was thinking he was just going to be describing Odie Asman, but so fun. Is this going to be the heckin' the wax model that was stolen? But one thing in particular will help positively identify the man. You see, I know him very well. You couldn't have led with that. After all, he's the engineer who built my invention.
What?
He built the machine? That's right. Mr. Asman introduced him to me a year ago. He's a man by the name of Enoch Drebber.
Enoch Drebber?
I don't know what the pun is there.
Does this name mean something? Members of the jury seem flustered. Not a name any scientist wishes to hear. The man's an abomination.
Not a name any conjurer wishes to hear either. Who on earth is he?
I'm afraid this isn't the first tale of this nature that I've heard in scientific circles with connection to that name. There's talk of other flamboyant experiments that turn out to be nothing but stage trickery in the end. Obviously, the rascal is after the government's research grant money.
When magicians are in need of money, I have heard of them resorting to these underhand tactics. Some acquaintances of mine, with experience of things, have mentioned Enoch Drebber's name before.
The man is both an engineer and a magician. Yes, we're dealing with an unparalleled confidence trickster here. That's Enoch Drebber for you.
Oh no. Well, we can't decide this yet until we get Mr. Drebber here at the stand and get him to testify. So it's true then. My invention, my great machine. It was all just a grand illusion? Considering what we've just heard about Mr. Drebber's character, I'm sorry to say it sounds increasingly likely. Even though no one else believed it, I wanted to. I wanted to believe that machine would function exactly as my hypothesis predicted.
Which is why you were so strongly opposed to it being investigated, I presume.
I knew that if the machine was examined in detail, its construction would give away my hypothesis. Obviously, I didn't want that to happen. But at the same time, I knew that if it was found to be nothing more than a trick, than a work of deception, then everything I'd worked towards, all my research, all my dreams, my whole life would be over. I was terrified of the prospect.
So you really had no idea then, did you? About the true nature of the machine that was built, and the true nature of Mr. Drebber.
I never questioned anything. I didn't want to question it.
I'm mixing up my accents again. It's entirely possible that Mr. Asman and Mr. Drebber were working together to use you as a means of fraudulently acquiring the research grant money. Yeah, see, Mr. Asman's clearly... Oh, but yes, body doubles. So that's not Mr. Asman. Mr. Asman is already dead in the balloon. And then Mr. Drebber pops the balloon. Through magician's trickery, the bird cage vanishes. And then because the balloon popped, the other bird cage with Mr. Asman's body in it falls into the crystal tower. We have an understanding.
When I announced my invention to the crowd that day, it was one of the finest moments of my career. I pulled all the levers and turned all the dials exactly the way Mr. Drebber had described. When the smoke suddenly started billowing out, I panicked. I didn't know what was happening.
We heard his voice at the heckin'... I'm just now realizing we heard his voice during the opening cutscene of this case, didn't we? And that's why it was voiced, because it was him saying all this. Okay, but oh well, he has a voice now. I'm not changing it.
But I really don't know how the illustration was made to work.
Hold on, but did he say illustration? Illusion.
I don't know anything more.
Let me confirm one final point with you, Professor. Do you now consent to the prosecution submitting the necessary paperwork to release your invention from the protection afforded by the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act?
Yes, please go ahead. I'm very sorry.
Well, dang.
It would appear that we shall have to suspend proceedings for the remainder of the day now. Lord Van Zieks, my lord, the court has newly been made aware of another party whose involvement in this matter is critical. Yes, Mr. Drebber. Gather information about the man if possible. I should like to have him served with a subpoena. With pleasure, my lord. Now, counsel for the defense.
Yes, my lord.
When we reconvene, I shall be looking for one thing and one thing alone from you. Evidence that the defendant is innocent of the crime for which he presently stands accused. I understand. Good. In that case, this court is adjourned until tomorrow morning.
It's 1:36 p.m. We only made one mistake, not bad.
Mr. Naruhodo.
Yes?
I'm so sorry. I was wrong. You were right. I tricked you. You trusted me. I dragged you into my mess. Oh, how did it ever come to this? I'm so sorry. I think I'm making him sound too Italian when he's supposed to sound German. Even though that's not his canon voice, that's just the voice I gave him. Did you really have no idea, Professor? About what Mr. Drabble was really up to, I mean. About what he was really constructing. Naturally. So the machine was the embodiment of my hypothesis. Of all my hopes and dreams. I had complete faith in it. Right, in that case, I won't say any more. Now, sadly, the murder accusation against you still stands, so we must do as much investigation as we can before the trial resumes tomorrow. Well, thank you for doing so much for me. There's Susato. I was wondering, are we going to get to speak to her before we hit the to be continued? I'm sorry for arriving late this morning, Mr. Naruhodo. Arriving late? Didn't you receive my postcard? I wanted to let you know when I'd arrive. Postcard? What postcard? I hid it from you, Runa, so it would be a surprise. Well, did it work? I was surprised, alright, especially when she threw me to the ground. Oh dear, I'm so sorry. I was just so happy to see you again that it sort of slipped out. Maybe we could stick to more traditional displays of emotion in future. Susie's train was late into London Victoria this morning, you see. But we made the coachman really whip the horses hard so she wouldn't miss the whole trial. I was watching from the gallery for a while, but in the end, I'm afraid I couldn't contain myself. Well, I'm glad you didn't. Oh? Having you at my side in court gives me strength. Gives me the strength I need to win. So, I'm, delighted to see you back in London. Oh, you're too kind, Mr. Naruhodo. I'm delighted to be here. Side note, I guess the Australian accent is just the stand-in for how the Japanese characters speak. Apparently. Because I don't think I can do an accent of a Japanese person speaking English without making it sound incredibly insensitive, so I'm not even going to attempt it. I hope I can continue to be of service to you. Of course. So, what's brought you back? Did Professor Mikotoba not protest? Let's save all that conversation for when we're back at home, shall we? You know, I've made one of my most special blends ever for this special occasion. Oh, Iris, how wonderful. I can't wait. Well, that's nice. Susato-san was back in London. It's hard to describe how happy that made me feel at the time, but despite my elation, our tale was about to take yet another extraordinary turn. What? Huh? What? Huh? What? Unfortunately, we'll have to find out next time. Because with all my nose problems, it would seem that we are ending off, that we have finished the trial segment at just about the right time for me to end stream. We're like 5 minutes early, but really, it's 5 minutes. There's not even anyone in chat anyway. So, thank you for watching, anyone who watched this. All of you watching the VOD like you definitely do, wink, wink. Hey, I can actually wink. I just need to be careful about only doing it with one eye. Okay, I can't wink with my left eye. I can wink with my right.
if I'm careful about it. Oh, I need to turn my volume back down again now. Yeah. So I will probably not be streaming tomorrow. If I do stream, it's probably going to be in the afternoon, but I probably just won't. Hopefully my nose is a bit better so I can actually record a song like I want to. But I do have other things I need to do today. I do still need to record, draw a comic strip. I have to change my coins over for next week's laundry, etc, etc. Which is why I decided to stream today instead of working on the song, because I have other things I need to do. And honestly, with my nose the way it is, I probably couldn't have recorded anyway. So my next stream will probably be next week on Saturday, just to give myself some time tomorrow to work on things. I apologize, but I mean, I did stream a lot last month, so hopefully it's fine. Anyway, Miko's live. We'll just raid Miko. It's easy. She doesn't look like she's ending, so it should be fine. I learned how to pronounce her name recently. This whole time I've been like, oh, I can't actually. It doesn't show up on the text box. I've been pronouncing her name as like Mahikan. It's not. It's Mexican. I've just been pronouncing it wrong. It's Mexican Miko. Don't tell her I said that though. Anyway, we're going to be raiding Miko. She is currently playing Zenless Zone Zero, which I think is the new game from the Genshin people. The Genshin Honkai people. I don't know shit about this stuff. Fun fact, I used to think that all their games took place in like the same multiverse because or like the same universe rather, not multiverse. The same universe because I kept hearing people describe it as the Hoyoverse. Apparently, that's just the name of the English branch of their company. So I'm stupid. Anyway, I'll see you whenever the next time I stream is. Thanks for watching. Otsukame. Bye bye. And scene.